And here we go, man. Now this is the fight that I think makes this card what it is. And any other given night, this could easily be the co-main event, possibly even the main event in a lot of pay-per-view fights that the UFC has put up lately. Welterweight scrap between Thiago Alves and John Fitch. Alves comes in a slight favorite, -140. Fitch is at +110. What do you think about that early line? Are you surprised that Thiago is favored?
A little bit. Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that he's favored, but those are betting lines. So sometimes the odds makers will throw a number out there and see which way the fan base is going. And I think initially, if my memory serves me correctly, that Fitch started out as the favorite. So a lot of money probably started coming in on Alves, and they probably was probably the reason why he's the favorite now. And that could change on fight night. But I do like Alves in the fight. And most people seem to like Fitch. So, but it's just and this is a very difficult fight to call, and it's very hard to call this fight. I mean, you pick either guy, and you really can't. And if you pick it right, you really can't walk around with your chest out because you got it. It's just one of those. It could go either way. I mean, both of these guys are really awesome.
Which record would you rather have? 21-3, but 11 of those are by decision, or 16-6 and 10 by TKO?
That's kind of tough because you really have to look at how those records were built and against whom, and it depends. It really and one thing we see with mixed martial arts, unlike boxing, where obviously boxing records can be padded, but in mixed martial arts, it really comes down to what have you done lately, because the fighters are changing so much. They're changing their game so quickly. The sport is changing every day so quickly that it's hard to look at those records without really looking at these fighters and say, okay, what is different about him now than what he was, just say, even 2 years ago? And that's the key, I think. So I guess you always want the more impressive record, but you got to be careful with those things.
I hear you. One important thing that you just talked about that I'd like to touch on is Dan Hardy actually brought this up about fighters actually evolving and continuing to develop their game, every week, every day, whatever it is. And he kind of threw American Kickboxing Academy under the bus. That's John Fitch's camp with Josh Koscheck, as well as who am I missing here? John Fitch, Josh Koscheck, and Mike Swick. Sorry. He said that over there they seem a little content and they're not as hungry, and that's why their fighters aren't evolving as much. Do you see that going down that way? Do you think Fitch has evolved as quickly as some of the other fighters in the world?
Boy, that's a tough one. I think that some guys, I think some can't focus on certain things more so than others, but they have a very good camp over there at AKA. So I don't know if I'm buying that. I mean, here's a good example. You got a kid like Cain Velasquez, which really, when you look at Cain Velasquez, who fights out of there. And and I know Javier Mendez very well and knows what he's doing there. And those guys, they are developing. I mean, certain guys get comfortable. You can train a guy and have a guy focus on certain aspects that they want him to improve on. But a lot of times when fighters get in a certain situation, they're going to go back to what they're comfortable with. And that's not necessarily the camp, it's just the fighter. And Cain Velasquez, anybody that says the fighters at AKA aren't developing haven't seen Cain Velasquez. So to make that kind of comment is kind of silly. Maybe he's looking at the guys in his division and saying that those guys aren't developing, but you really can't say that about the camp. There are guys. Phil Davis is another guy I believe in AK, and that guy, you see his stand-up game improving a lot, so even before he got to UFC. So, guys, I don't know. I guess you can make the case Kung Lee really hasn't developed that much either.
Man, I didn't want to say anything. In Hardy's defense, I think he did specifically point out the welterweights over there, so he didn't say anything outside of Kane. But yeah, it's a great point that you brought up. Sounds like Alves for you on this one?
Yeah, I'm leaning toward Alves on this one.
TKO?
No, I'm not going to Fitch. I just think that he's going to. And it's really just a gut feeling. I just think that he was so dominated by GSP. I believe it was at 100, and really didn't. I thought I even liked him going against GSP. But he was so overwhelmed by that I'm sure, his camp is going to really, America Top Team, they're going to really work on other aspects of his game. Obviously, he's not going to be able to just overpower John Fitch, who's a very strong fighter and strong wrestler himself. So Alves is going to have to really be aggressive with his Muay Thai and also improve his hands a lot better and his takedown defense. And I'm sure that's what they worked on.
Right, and I'm with you. I thought Alves was the biggest threat to GSP's throne going into 100. I think that he brings an athleticism, a relentlessness, and a size in that division that I thought GSP couldn't match up with, but, I mean, apparently not. He proved us all wrong again. One thing
It also may be a matter, it may be a situation where I'm wondering, and this fight will really determine this, how much the weight cut is starting to affect Alves. I'm starting to wonder about that, and right now I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's really not. But this fight, I really believe, will determine whether or not he can stay in the welterweight division and be competitive.
Yeah, this is a great match for me because in their initial meeting back, I believe it was June 2006, when Fitch got the upkick TKO win. I had Alves winning that fight up until that very end, so it was a slight mistake. And, I mean, if you take that out of his record, Alves would have gone on one of the sickest winning streaks in the welterweight division up until he met GSP. So, he's definitely a threat. Hopefully he can get his stuff together. What I did notice going into that GSP fight, when the UFC brought Alves into the octagon after GSP beat Penn to try to pump up, their upcoming fight, I mean, Alves had a look of like a deer caught in the headlights. He seemed overwhelmed by the situation. And then in the fight, he didn't seem to. It kind of showed in the fight as well. Did you get that impression?
I didn't see that. I didn't think he was afraid. That's one thing. I definitely never saw any fear in him. Going into the fight, definitely not during the pre-fight stuff. I mean, I think he was definitely confident going in. I had an opportunity to speak with him a couple of times. Matter of fact, I spoke to him actually at 100. I had an opportunity to speak to him there, and that was 100. But I think it was the fight before that, before he was scheduled to fight. It was a George St. Pierre fight. I just can't remember which fight it was, but it was one that I think was the one preceding his fight with GSP. It might have been the BJ Penn fight. No, it might have been BJ Penn when George St. Pierre fought BJ Penn, and he seemed very confident then. And even, like I said, before the weigh-in at 100, he was very confident that he was going to win. So he didn't seem afraid at all. There was the issue of him, cutting weight, and it seemed like, members of his camp were, trying to rush him out of the press conference so that he can get back and start cutting more weight. And that's when you hear a guy trying to do that just a few days before the fight, it does seem to become a concern. You have to start looking at that, and this guy probably can't, having difficulty cutting the weight. I mean, he's probably able to cut the weight, but it's draining him so much.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. So I got Alves actually winning in the third round. I got him in a TKO. I know it's tough to TKO Fitch, but I think his game's evolving to the point where it might happen.